DevilNeverCry.
What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and we are back with another video, this time tackling advanced mechanics in Devil May Cry. That's right, the original, the one that started it all. Those of you who've played DMC might be wondering what exactly could be so advanced about it. I mean, it's a game that's 20 years old after all, and its gameplay is very dissimilar to the eventual sequels. Well, I want to be going over a few things that I've learned when going for S ranks, 100%ing the game, challenging some of the harder difficulties, and even speedrunning. And yes, I have ran this game before. My times aren't that great by speedrun standards, but hey, there are things that you can definitely learn. So, to kick things off, let's start with slash cancelling. Slash cancelling, as it sounds, is cancelling your slash animation to reduce the recovery frames, allowing you to put more slashes out there in more of a rapid pace. You can see here as I'm practicing on this rune puzzle, and it shows you just how stark the difference is between the speed of a slash cancelled attack and a non-slash cancelled attack. This is a move that you'll learn when learning to speedrun the game, as it is pivotal in the first mission, and also on Dante Must Die difficulty against certain bosses like Nello Angelo. Because you're essentially reducing your recovery frames and throwing out attacks quicker than you're supposed to be, you can even stun lock bosses like Nello or enemies like the marionettes. So how exactly do you slash cancel? Well, technically there are two ways to go about it. In this video we're going to cover the most popular way and the most easiest way when you think about the inputs involved. After throwing out two triangle attacks, or whatever you've got your melee button mapped to, what you want to do with the left stick is you want to waggle it in a circle. Doesn't necessarily matter about the direction, I usually go anti-clockwise. And what you'll see is that Dante will put his sword up on his back a lot quicker than usual. This is the signifier that you can now start the slash cancelling again. Two attacks, waggle the left stick, Dante will put the sword on his back, and then repeat the process. For added benefit, I've added a side-by-side here so you can see what a non-slash cancelled attack looks like and what the recovery frames are like, because it is quite a stark difference. It should be added that with this method, unlike the other one, you don't have to lock on, freeing up one of your fingers. You could technically spin the left stick constantly if you are worried about dropping the slash cancelling, and go ahead with the slash cancel that way, though I would advocate actually learning the timing, as it is far more efficient and easier than constantly spinning that left stick. Next up, jump cancelling, and by its inclusion, shotgun hiking. Jump cancelling, of course, is a thing in this game. You can lift an enemy up with a high time, follow them up, jump off them, and hit them with a helm breaker. Now, you might look at this and think, well, what exactly is even the point of jump cancelling, because you can't really jump cancel aerial moves like you can in some of the other DMC games. However, there is something very key here in DMC 1 that makes jump cancelling all the more worthwhile, especially with things like speedruns. Phantom 1, I'm looking at you for this. Whenever you use a jump cancel or a wall hike, the following helm breaker that you do in the air will do increased damage. And from a physics perspective, I guess it technically makes sense. You're performing a helm breaker from a higher position in the air, something to do with mass times velocity, I suppose, and you come down harder, essentially. You fall for a longer distance, you do more damage. This is great when you're trying to be super efficient. Not that it really comes into play all too much, other than speedrunning, for example, like Phantom, but it is something that you can use on enemies, albeit when you get into the harder difficulties, you're not really going to be using Helm Breaker all too much. But now let's move on to shotgun hiking. Shotguns in DMC 1 are wonderfully uplifting, and I mean that in the literal sense. Whenever you juggle an enemy and you hit them with a blast from the shotgun, the force of that shot will literally lift them up in the air. Now couple this with jump cancelling and even air hiking if you mess up your jump cancel, and you could essentially uplift enemies all the way up into the ceiling. From a physics perspective, it does not make sense at all, because you could shoot an enemy whilst you're above them, and somehow the enemy will still travel up, which is why shotgun hiking works. The simplest way to perform a shotgun hike, breaking it down move by move, is hit an enemy with a high time. Then, whilst you're still on the floor, shoot them with the shotgun. Immediately after you shoot, jump up and shoot again. Then, jump up and shoot again. If you've done this correctly, after that second shot whilst you're in the air, you'll be able to jump cancel off the enemy, allowing you to go above them and then shoot them to raise them to your level. Then you can repeat ad nauseum. Jump, shoot, jump, shoot, jump, shoot. This essentially is a way to show off. It works very well with enemies with high HP values like marionettes. I think I've only ever seen it be done with marionettes and fetishes, but it is a cool maneuver nonetheless. Let's talk about Ifrit. Specifically, its just charge mechanic. Yes, you heard that right. DMC1 and Ifrit do have a just charge timing to it, just like some of the other weapons you see in future Devil May Cry titles. To explain this, all of you probably know that Ifrit can be fully charged. Once you charge up to its maximum, Dante will automatically attack. However, there is a just charge timing, and if you can find it, that attack will do more damage than if you were to let it charge fully and have Dante automatically attack. Unfortunately though, this isn't something that I can teach. This is something that you'll have to go in there and actually try for yourself. The easiest way to practice this though, I will say, is go into either mission 4 or I believe mission 7 and allow Phantom to essentially chase you. Then once you've been chased to the end of the corridor and Phantom's face is there for basically being a punching bag, you can use Phantom's life bar to essentially practice and figure out the timing for the just charge attack. Now for this next mechanic, a lot of you will probably know exactly what I'm talking about thanks to the other video I made, and that is the ability to distort moves. Yes, that's right, you can distort things in DMC1, however, under very, very strict restrictions. I've done an entire video on this distortion mechanic, which goes into more detail, but simply put, having Nightmare Beta equipped on your left hand and using Ifrit at the same time allows their hitboxes to line up, which means Dante's left-handed attacks come out a lot stronger. Throw in Devil Trigger and the Just Charge mechanic, and you can pretty much one-shot bosses on some of the lower difficulties. I don't want to retread ground in another video, so I do suggest that if you are interested in learning more about this distortion mechanic, please go and check out the video. I will leave a link in the description to this video. Getting back to the shotgun for a second though, let's talk about shotgun twitching, as it's called, which simply allows you again to bypass some of the recovery frames of the shotgun after shooting it, allowing you to fire slightly more rapidly. As you can see here, Dante has to essentially open the breech of the shotgun, eject the spent shells, and then snap it back up to shut it and allow Dante to fire again. It's done very smoothly, literally with one hand. Dante literally flicks his wrist and it looks pretty cool. But if you want to fire quickly, you can use shotgun twitching, as you can see here. What I'm essentially doing is after every shot, I'm letting Dante shuffle to either side. Pick a side, move the left analog stick, and then fire again. You'll see that the animation is almost entirely cancelled. Maybe Dante will twitch every once in a while, but he'll keep that shotgun arm extended far out, allowing you to continue firing without having to eject any shells. Up next is something that I want to talk about when it comes to speedrunning, and that of course is Devil Trigger management. So in DMC1, some of you may not even have noticed this, but Devil Trigger and its deactivation comes at a cost. Every time you deactivate your Devil Trigger bar, it'll use up between 1 and 1.5 runes of Devil Trigger. This is done to de-incentivize people only enabling Devil Trigger when they're performing a combo string, then allowing them to quickly toggle off, so that they can only use Devil Trigger when they're attacking and, think they're being smart. However, there is a way around this. There is a way to toggle off your Devil Trigger without having to suffer the deactivation cost, and that is simply by going through a door. As you can see here, whenever I toggle off my Devil Trigger, I lose a little bit of it. However, whenever I go through a door, the Devil Trigger just stops automatically exactly where it was, allowing you to skirt around the deactivation cost. Is it something that's amazing? Not necessarily, but it's something that you might want to know if you're trying to conserve your Devil Trigger on some of those harder difficulties. Circling back to firearms though, let's talk about the grenade gun and the grenade roll cancelling. A lot of techniques in this game, are about cancelling, and it all makes sense, but the grenade gun. Many of you know that this weapon has an immense output of damage. It gives you a lot of Devil Trigger whenever you hit enemies with it. It does a lot of damage against a wide area because it's an explosive, and to balance it out, they've made the firing animation incredibly slow, meaning that the rate of fire is incredibly slow, and it leaves you vulnerable on the ground after you fire because Dante stood there dealing with the recoil. However, this can be cancelled, as the name implies, by simply rolling. Roll to the side or jump back. It doesn't make a difference. It will cancel out the recovery, allowing you to fire that grenade gun a lot quicker. And last but certainly not least, let's talk about charge shots. Charge shots, as the name implies, allows Dante to store magical energy, as it's called in this game, or Devil Trigger, into his guns and then fire them off, allowing him to gain a quick burst of power in a few of those bullets. Doesn't require the use of any Devil Trigger, and it can only be done with Ebony and Ivory and the shotgun. It doesn't matter if you've got Alistair or Ifrit equipped, it will work with either of those Devil Arms. The drawback to using this technique though is that they actually need to be charged, so you need to lock onto an enemy and hold the gun button for a considerable amount of time until you see Dante's hands essentially either crackle with electricity or light up with the fires of hell. What's cool is that these attacks will take on slightly different properties in that they can knock some enemies back. However, when it comes to damage output, the grenade gun is still king. And that about wraps it up for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if there's anything else that I have missed. If you enjoyed today's video, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing, as it all helps out the channel. And with all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.